Are you a sports bettor who is looking for something more balanced than positive EV and steam chasing in your sports betting? You're going to want to see this video. Welcome to The Advantage. I'm A-Train Bets, and I use my brain to make bets. Now, in this video, we're going to show you something that is unique to A-Train Station, and that is we have started to develop true hybrid betting, true quantified hybrid betting, where we are bringing in the previous performance against particular lines as a quantifiable stat that you can weight alongside your sharp books at A-Train Station. This video is going to walk us through that mechanism, how that works. This is not going to be a how to use it video in terms of this is a good strategy. I honestly am not a good hybrid bettor yet. And at this point, I know there are a lot of you out there who have a lot of ability in sports betting from a bottom-up perspective. You follow the teams, you understand the matchups, you watch for lineup changes, you keep an eye on injuries. All of that context that you are naturally good at, A, I am not, but B, can be brought alongside the top-down quantification, searching, and analysis that we do at A-Train Station so well. We can now bring those together and you can start to quantify those a little bit more. And that is a path that we are on because we know that the sharpest bettors in the world don't just steam chase. They don't just look for market outliers. They are looking beyond that. We understand that top down is all about market analysis. It's all about understanding what the books are telling us the truth is, even though we know they're lying to us half the time. And we're looking for outliers to that. And we're trying to find a quantified sense of what truth is. And it works. It's a good way to make some money in sports betting. But the best bettors in the world go beyond that. They understand where there's inefficiencies in that market analysis, where there are patterns of behavior, where the books take advantage of the public who want to see things happen, who overestimate the likelihood of favorites winning. You know, that is something that we see all the time. And the markets reflect that. And so the best bettors in the world can elevate beyond market efficiency because the markets are often not efficient. And that's something that we know that if we can help quantify and we can make it easier to know those circumstances in which the bottom-up information can combine with the top-down information, because keep in mind, the best bettors in the world, they're not forgetting the prices of things. They're looking to get the best price. They're going to always want to get down at the best price. They know very deeply the power of those numbers. So this is not just about going bottom-up. We never just go pure bottom-up. But this is our first step towards truly enabling hybrid betting, which is leveraging qualitative information alongside that quantitative assessment that we do so well. So this video is about introducing you to the stats functionality. This should not be the first video you watch about A-Train Station because we're going to assume you've watched a lot of the other videos out there and have a general understanding of how this software works. And if you're already an A-Train Station member, you should have been using the core functionality of this for a long time. But the stats functionality here is something unlike you've seen anywhere else. And so let's get into it. And we're going to start by how do we set this thing up? So let's bring up our book weightings page, because typically our book weightings, you see all the different books and you can rate them how you want to have them. I often use a weight by hold strategy, and I'm looking at like Bookmaker and BetChris. I'll put 5 on each of those. It's kind of a 10-point max scale that I use in my betting. One of the powers of A-Train Station is that you can set whatever you want. Right? You can set this up however you think about book sharpness. You know, most people are going to have Pinnacle being pretty high. I have them rated it as a 10. And I have some other books that I just like to know where they are. Like sometimes Caesars has interesting lines, so I like to give them a 3 just so I can see them when they have something that might be worth looking at. So I'll do that. I'll give them a nominal value that will come into the overall sharpness, but is at a lower level than something like Pinnacle, right? So I have that. But what I do here is I have a stats weight of 1, and this is mostly for demonstration. Again, I will absolutely emphasize that this is not about the strategy. I have had very little success doing this myself. I am a pure top-down bettor. I'm a data guy. I don't know the teams. I don't know the matchups. I hate looking for other information out there. But that is absolutely, if you're going to dabble with this functionality, you need to be on top of that because you don't want to use just this one little thing and overweight that alongside a very sophisticated top-down analysis. So just recognize that this is me teaching you how it works, not what to do with it. Okay? So we're going to put in a stats weighting of 1. So we're going to come in here and we're going to go over now to our pregame, and we're just going to use my normal books or whatever. And that's the stats pow is the weighting that we just set. So it's going to give us a 1 on that. And we're going to say, hey, show us anything where our traditional no-vig line lines up and where the stats line up. Now you don't have to use stats alignment to leverage stats, because there's 2 aspects to what we do in A-Train Station with the stats. And let me talk about this for a moment. We have stats alignment, which we've had for a while, which is saying, hey, if you have a stats feed on this, so if you have stats, I want to make sure that the stats performance on previous games tracks to what the no-vig odds needs them to be to make this a positive EV play, right? So it's just saying directionally, does this person tend to do what that bet is most of the time? Or does this team tend to get this many points or whatever that much of the time based on what the odds are in any given market? That's fine. That's the alignment. But there's a couple features here that we haven't had before. One of them is the stats range. Now we do use the stats range for both stats alignment and the stats weighting that we just saw on the weightings page. And again, this is advanced class stuff. This is going to be deep. And so I apologize for that. Welcome to the world of sports betting, where you need some really serious power to outthink multi-billion-dollar sports books. Sorry, that's just how this game goes. So the stats range is really interesting. So you have to think about this. All right. So say we're we're at today, and say your team played yesterday and every day for the last 10 days. Well, if we said, hey, show us the best that this person has done or the worst this person has done against a, total of 5 rushing yards or whatever it is. And you see, okay, 5 whatevers. And yesterday, they didn't do it. That would be a minus 100% on stats if you only go 1 day back. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Even if we go 2 days back, it's like 50%. Well, that doesn't tell you enough. So the stats range says, okay, first, what's the minimum that I want to go back? 10 games? Fine. 10 games? In the last 10 games, or the last 10 recordings of the stat, so if they were out, they were injured or something like that, that doesn't get counted. The last 10 times this person had a value, or this team had a value for this, what's the range there? And what's the stats performance there? All the way out to our default is 30. We'll also be doing season and specific dates and stuff like that. So you look at since the All-Star break or whatever, if you wanted to put that in, that's coming very soon. But if you say, okay, from the last 10 games to the last 30 games, what is the worst performance that they've had over that period of time? That's what we're going to actually use for the stats, is say, what is the worst that anything between 10 and 30 games from back to now? So it's a minimum of 10 because you don't want to get that 100%, minus 100% type of thing. But between 10 and 30, what's the worst case scenario there? Or you could just say, I just want to look at the last 10. You just do 10 to 10. You can control that, right? So you could say 10 to 100, right? It's baseball season, it's late in September. You could say, okay, go back 100 games, whatever it is, right? But that gives you the control of saying, how do I want to break down previous performance and look at it alongside all of my book weightings? Because now keep in mind, your stats don't have to be weighted at 1. They could be weighted at 0.1. They could be weighted at 10. Whatever you want in terms of how much you want to treat that amount, that is what goes into the pull on this. So let's first start without stats alignment, okay? Let's look at no-vig alignment only, because that's our top-down approach, so we don't want to just abandon the top-down analysis. We're going to say, okay, we want to have no-vig alignment, and we want to see stats no matter what the stats impact is, we're going to see it. Okay, and so we're going to run it with this. And again, there's a lot to experiment with here, and we'll have multiple videos on this topic. This is going to be something that the power of this is going to take some time to truly understand. And that's true on our side as well. All right, so let's look here at, in this case, let's look at Cade Cunningham threes. Cade Cunningham threes is a good one to take a peek at. So this is pulling up, and what we can see here is a pretty typical situation. Now this brown, we'll call it kind of a golden color. It's got a little tint brown to it. This is your stats range. And you can actually see down here what we were just talking about, that this is 14 and 22. So the 14 and 22 are the respective worst case scenarios for the threes over 2.5 or the threes under 2.5, right? So this case, when we use the 3.78% that's come out here, we need a 43% or better likelihood to win based on this 134, right? We need to win this more than 43% of the time for it to be profitable. Well, we can see on the stats side, there's 50% of the time that they've done that is our worst case scenario. So this Cade Cunningham threes over the last 30 games, you can see 50% of the time he's done this. Pretty compelling, right? Because they're thinking, well, maybe this matchup's not as good or whatever, but the market is saying, hey, you've got the top-down perspective in this dark band here, and you've got the stats perspective over here. These white lines, which used to or do represent the no-vig lines when you're using pure top-down, they are now a hybrid between pure stats and pure top-down, right? So what we see here is this is information about the stats in our golden section. This is information, our traditional information about our top-down. These lines are now in between. So we say, hey, this 134 isn't just based on here. This 3.78% is actually because the stats would indicate that we have a greater likelihood of winning than the market is indicating. It's a compelling scenario, right? We can go back and in our edits page, you can just say, hey, I'm going to turn off stats here. Forget it. I'm going to turn off stats right now. We'll leave the stats range in place, but I don't want it to be weighted on my line. So what are you going to see? Well, we hit save. It's reloading the page. And now those lines are just going for the top down. You can see at a top down, it's only 1.28%. If I go back, you can see how that became higher because the stats pulled it into that direction. So that's what stats do, is that it allows you to move that perspective of the no-vig line in tandem with their actual performance. Cade Cunningham's threes actual performance over and under 2.5. It's really clever because we've effectively taken the stats and allow you to treat it like a no-vig line because it's quantifiable. We know what this player's performance has been. It's in the results. And so this can be extremely powerful to find things beyond scenarios where the top down, in this case, the top down might not have been playable by itself, but you might say, hey, well, with this pattern and the way I'm seeing, look at all of this alignment throughout this entire market. It's amazing, right? That alignment is no joke. And you see Profit X with a line that's way off of that. Maybe you think, hey, somebody at Profit X knows something. That could be an interpretation. But you also say, hey, I have some real stats power here. This might be a play you might want to consider. Again, we can't say whether or not this is a good idea based solely on stats, but if you know this team, you know Cade Cunningham, you know the matchup, and you're like, hey, I'm getting some extra value here. This might be a way for you to step into understanding, hey, the market is not aligned to what previous performance would be. You know, there's always that disclaimer on anything financial, right? There's always that disclaimer that says past performance is not indicative of future results. That's true here too, but it's still the best we've got in a lot of cases. It's that plus what the market is telling us, plus what you can think about on top of that. Now, this is the thing that I want to really, really emphasize is that if you're going to use this and quantify that stats performance, that is something that you need to supplement with additional information. Check the lineups, check the news, check Twitter, see who's out. What's that matchup? What's the previous performance been? You need to start doing that. And we're going to try to make as much of that available directly through the A-Train station as possible. But today you get a taste of it. It says, hey, this is something that's interesting for you. Now go with it. Now there's a couple of other things that I want to show you. Okay, so let's go and find a situation where there is stats alignment, but there's not necessarily no-vig alignment. So we're going to rerun this query again, still with our stats, but we're also saying, hey, let's put some emphasis on stats. If no-vig pulls it in another direction, I don't really care, right? So we may or may not see this. We're going to look at this Damian Lillard points over 24 and a hook. What's interesting here is that you see this X. This X means that there's no sharp books. This is the power of stats. You can say, hey, there's no sharp books. You could have one book in this market. And you say, hey, based on previous performance, Damian Lillard points over 24 and a half. Well, I don't have any sharp books. Now, there's a lot of books that are offering lines in this market, which is a little bit funny, but a lot of the sharper books, like you see Bet Online here is typically a sharper book. They're off right now, which is fine. That just means that at some point they offered a line, now they're not. But in this case, we could say just based on stats performance alone, this looks compelling, right? FanDuel 7% edge, plus 100, a lot of the markets in other places, but you can see like there's not a huge variance in the market. They're just the furthest on this one side. But if you have a read on this game and say, hey, he's been crushing the last 3 games, you can see over 24 and a hook. And you say, you know what? Let's hypothesize. Now, I don't have any specific knowledge about Damian Lillard points at all or Damian Lillard's performance or whatever, but let's just make up something. Say this 10-game break here, right, is meaningful, right? Maybe that's meaningful. So let's go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're going to now use 12 as our max. So we're going to say 10-2 on this 12. Okay, we're going to hit save. Everything else is going to stay the same. Now, what we see is when we reload that page, what you're going to see on this, and this is why I wanted to bring it up, is that we only show 30 right now. So you're only going to see the latest 30, but you're always going to see 30 if there's 30 results. In this case, we've quantified the last 12, and there's always 10 in each of these lines, by the way. But the other ones are available. You can see, there's some green there or whatever, but like that 10 break, we're just going to treat that. Now we're just say, okay, we're going to quantify the last 12, and that looks even better. 9% now instead of the 7%. Remember, I can just hit my back button, go to 7.69%. Well, this is interesting, right? So now I can see, all right, Damian Lillard points. This is pretty compelling at a book I can play at. He's been killing it. If I know what this next matchup is all about, right, in this game against the Pelicans, if I know what this next game's about and how they match up with that or whatever, I'd say no. Based on previous stats, based on this matchup, I think he's got a great chance of doing it. Stats certainly support it. He's been killing it. Do you want to make this play or not? I won't make this play because I don't know those things. But if you are in tune with that, these are things that you can really drive some edge with. This is the kind of functionality that bottom-up bettors should be dreaming about. How do I filter in all of this bottom-up knowledge from this team I follow or this league I follow or these players I know very well and bring it alongside all of this market information that you get at A-Train Station? That is real power. And because of our customizability and our transparency, you always know how everything is calculated. You can always change this on the fly. You say, you know what? Caesars is really sharp with this stuff. I'm going to treat them as half of this. And I'm just going to throw that in. Caesars is a sharp book. They're weighted at half. FanDuel is still showing a 9% edge based on the stats because Caesars is only a one-sided line. So bad example there. So you say maybe you think, for whatever reason, Fanatics does a great job with player props. I don't know. Maybe you think that, right? You could say, I'm going to treat them as a 1, and you're going to have the stats that we've already treated as a 1. Look at how much it impacts FanDuel's EV percent. And this is so crucial because when you are using top-down betting, your sharp book selections matter so much. And when you are working with some random algo line and you don't know what sharp books are being treated what as where, like that is no way to live because that EV percent becomes completely arbitrary. Then you are no longer the driver of your train. You are now a passenger, right? You don't know where you're going. You're going wherever they take you. And A-Train Station always makes it so you can always control the things you need to control. It's always transparent. It's always clear where the calculation comes from. We always try to make sure that you have full ability to change the things you want to. Does it lead to more complication? Absolutely. Does it lead to a bare minimum of a chance of how to beat these multi-billion-dollar sports books? We'd like to think that's true too. And so this is where the power that you get here, once you start to understand this, and again, you're not going to understand it from this video. This video is just going to tell you that this exists. And you're going to be like, damn, there's some stuff there, right? That's all we're really going to accomplish here. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to walk through. There's a lot to understand, but the power in it is unbelievable. And if you can harness that, you can really elevate your game as a sports bettor. I mean, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. You start to couple this with how the markets move. We have line movement history here. Look at all this stuff. We can see how that market has moved back in time. I'm just jumping back 5 minutes at a time. See how these markets move so much, right? And that's where you need to be able to have that kind of control to watch that movie, to look at the stats, to look at the top-down analysis, to change your mind, to look at, say, hey, you know what? I don't like what I'm seeing here from Fanatics. Maybe they suck at this. Let's just go back to pure stats. You do that too, right? That's what we do. And now you could say, all right, Now I'm going to make this player. I'm not going to make this player. I think, this is a trap game. I think the market's not priced whatever in. This is the kind of ability you have. And one of the key things with A-Train Station is that not everybody does the same thing. Not everybody interprets the markets the same. Not everybody uses even similar book weightings a lot of the time. Everybody has different places to play. Everybody has different knowledge that they can bring to that equation. When you're using the stats, when you're quantifying your bottom up and top down, you're bringing it together in a hybrid strategy, this tool can do anything. And we're just getting started. We're just getting started. This is the first time you've brought a true top-down, excellent analysis, market-driven analysis tool alongside bottom-up betting. And all of that knowledge that you've been building by watching sports. If you can understand both, watch out, world. Watch out, world. This is what drives tomorrow's edges. This is not, one of the great truths in advantage gambling of any kind is that all edges go away over time. And that is going to be true in sports betting. That's already true. You look at some of the things that happen in sports betting. You couldn't do these in the financial industry for 20 years. But they still exist here because some of the information doesn't flow as freely as it should. Well, these are going to go away over time. Some of our top-down strategies are going to be insufficient by themselves. But now you can start to couple it with this. There's successful sports bettors out there that only do bottom-up somehow. They just use one book and they know their picks or whatever, but think about how much more they could do. If you have the ability to price shop and look at market dynamics and bring it all together with that, you learn that other side of the coin. That's what most people need to do. A lot of people have good feelings and good hunches like FanDuel would love you to use. Well, now use your hunches alongside market-leading quantification, market-leading analysis, and being able to understand the true odds behind just the top-down. Bring that alongside your hunches and your knowledge of the teams. You're going to be making more than you've ever made before in your sports betting. So again, this is an opportunity. It is not an answer. This is a place where you can start to hone your craft, your style, your approach, specialize in the things that you are good at, and carve out the edges that are unique to you and your perspective. That is where the best results come from, is playing to your strengths, finding the edge. The beautiful part about this game is that books are generalists. They have to offer odds on all these different things, try to manage all of them, try to figure out, where the right place to be is on all these different things, all at the same time. And some are better than others at that. But you, as a bettor, you get to choose your spots. And you can choose your spots wisely. If you're a person who wants to make 5 great plays a day and spend an hour on each one, you could do that, right? If you want to be like me and make 100 and 150 plays, just carving out little edges based on the math on a top-down perspective, you can do that too, right? If you want to develop a strategy that nobody's ever seen before, now you have the ability to do that, and that will continue to be enhanced. And that's the kind of thing that's what sports betting is really all about. Sports betting is not about feelings and watching sports. It's really about understanding the role of data of all kinds, quantified market information, the previous performance on the stats that you see against these lines, additional context of what's happening with teams that haven't been priced into something yet. People will make profits simply on a strategy of watching Twitter for injury news and betting it before the market reacts completely. That's a strategy. You can do that. You can do that successfully. You have to decide what is it that you will enjoy in profitable sports betting, and find that nice mix of things you don't mind doing, things you like to do, alongside things that are effective. You find that right magic place, you're there. And that's what A-Train Station is designed to do, is whatever that is, we want to help you get there. We want to help you find it and make that advantage yours. So that's really, to me, that's really what I want to cover in this video, is understanding the role this plays and just the core functionality. When you see on like this Damian Lillard play, we've covered why you can change this, what you might look at, how this impacts it, where the stats are. We've talked a little bit about when you do the number here, when you see the worst case scenario here, there's 10 and 11. Like it's all about how do you want to break down that situation, and the more flexible your tool is, not for just finding interesting plays, which is really what the search screen is all about. Find interesting plays using a technique that finds you interesting plays. You want the most interesting plays, and you want the fewest non-interesting plays. That's what step 1 is. Step 2 is breaking down the interesting plays to make a decision. Everything on this detail screen should be about driving you to decide, am I making a play or not? And if I'm making a play, how much do I want to play it for? How do I want to play it? Do I want to parlay it? Do I want to do whatever? And that's what we focus on with the details. Again, we're giving you the ingredients. You got to decide what's the cake that you want to make, right? What's the cake you want to make? And that's what our software does differently than everyone else's out there. You know, we aren't going to pretend that that's simple. We're not going to give you an easy answer that's suboptimal. We're going to let you control it. But to do that, you got to learn. You got to explore. And the beautiful thing is we have a demo.atrainstation.com. That every day, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, you can go there and have updated data. Use it for real betting. Explore. Set your own books. Set your own weightings. Try something new each day. Try something new for free. For free. And use that demo for a few minutes till the lines have all moved, right? We don't keep updating it. We'll give you one refresh a day for free. But that's a great place to understand how this works. Learn. We're not asking you to buy the software when you don't know what's going on. Learn it. Understand. Watch my live streams each day. Watch the videos. So many videos that we've released on YouTube that teach different aspects of this. If you really want to be a sharp sports bettor and you don't know how to get started, look at the playlists that we have. Find out where you are in that journey and start learning. Start learning. We're here to help you learn. Even if you don't want to use A-Train Station, we're here to help you learn. Learn how to be a sharp sports bettor. Maybe we'll see you at Bet Bash. Right? Maybe you'll come up with a new idea that nobody else has thought of before, and you'll be successful because you heard something that we said and that took you down a journey. We'd love for that to be the case, right? I'd love for that. I've been teaching data-driven behaviors in corporate world for a long, long time, building technology systems for a long time. I've never had this much fun because I can connect directly with you and teach you some behaviors that not only will help you in sports betting, but these kinds of techniques, this kind of analysis can help you in a whole bunch of other aspects of your life as well. So again, it should be fun. It's sports betting after all. It should be fun. But the skills you will learn in doing this are going to help you in so many ways. So really, hopefully this is a good introduction to some core functionality that we have. I tried to spend some time putting it into appropriate context because context is everything. And I want to help you understand, like, these are the few things that are there. Again, keep in mind, some of that stats information, we've had that stats information. There's other videos on that. You can go and learn more about how the stats functionality works. But this hybrid quantified strategy is now something that you can find. You can start to explore this functionality and find that strategy that will work for you. So with that, for now, this train is leaving the station. Until next time, save the units for the bros. Do your betting like the pros with A-Train Station.